I welcome you all to my talk today, which is on uh, improving energy efficiency of the thermal power sectors in India, whether that can be a way to achieve just transition. And basically, in today's talk, what I will be taking you through on the employment perspective of labor and employment perspective of just transition. Many of you know that, first of all, this word just transition was first coined in some of the leaders of trade unions in late 60s and early 70s. So therefore, in today's talk, I am going to focus more on the employment and labor perspective of just transition. And then we'll talk about whether efficiency of the power sector, thermal power sector in India, particularly the fuel or energy use efficiency can be at least in the transitional phase where we are moving to local. So, just to give you a perspective of just transition, as you know that a huge global transformation is required if we want to limit the warming to 1.5 degree. CO2 emissions should be reduced about 45% as its level from 2010 as estimated by IPCC. Now, how do you limit this 1.5 degree and how do you reduce this huge amount of CO2 emission? So there are basically two ways suggested from an economics perspective, of course. First of all, economists, they say that if you want to reduce this huge carbon emission, either you can go by command and control mechanism, which is rather strict. We economists call this parallel-strict mechanism. So that means economists, they will suggest that you better shut all the coastline down. So there is no other alternative. And the other perspective, other way is market-based instrument, wherein they are suggesting you can still operating your coal mine, you can still use the fossil fuel, but let us impose carbon tax. And why carbon tax? Because the mechanism of carbon tax is it will make the fossil fuel costlier and it will encourage for renewable. So basically the relative price of fossil fuel will increase. So that means indirectly you are killing the mining for slow murder by increasing its price and thereby reducing the demand. These are the two alternatives. But interestingly, whatever ways you take, either command and control or carbon pricing, that means we are having now two major challenges while moving to low carbon economy. And these are the challenges basically. First of all, the first challenge is technical. Why technical? Because when you are moving to renewable based energy, that means the energy infrastructure, which was earlier used to perform taking fossil fuel as energy, now your input is a different one. So production and distribution, it requires a different type of mechanism. So energy infrastructure has to adapt with the new fuel. That is the technical side of it. But the social aspect of this transition also is equally important. And if we do not consider the social aspect of this transition, there will be a lot of friction in the process. There will be a lot of opposition. And what are the social aspects? Basically, that is what I am going to focus on this. Social aspect is basically, if you look at who is bearing the burden of this just transition and who is gaining from it. The moment we increase the fossil fuels price relative to the renewable, then the lower quintile income distribution of our society, it consists of poorer people. And interestingly, they are mostly engaged in production as well as consumption of fossil fuel. Most of the people who are engaged in mining, those who are working in mining areas, they are coming from the lower strata of the income. And if you see the percentage of income spent for fossil fuel, it is only those sections. Others, they have already moved into cleaner fuel or natural gas-based fuel. So that means these two will create a lot of inequalities in the system. So burden of the just transition is mostly borne by the lower segment of our society, while the benefit is enjoyed by all. So that is why we need to have a transition that will give a justice to the environment of the climate. But that justice should not come at the cost of injustice to one segment of the people. And that is what is known as just transition, right? So then ultimately it is a debate between environment and employment. And the concept of just transition also is therefore rooted in labor environmentalism, right? And then there are several definitions and ideas of just transition. I'm not able to follow what is happening here. So probably I have to go one step further. Yeah. So there are several definitions and concepts, but mostly in my today's talk, I will be focusing on the last one, wherein we define just transition as a transition to low carbon economy by minimizing the social consequences, negative economic and social consequences of just transition. And then we would like to ensure that those who are already employed in this fossil fuel sector directly or indirectly in other industries which are related to fossil fuel based sectors, their employment is either protected or we give enough rehabilitation for all these people for alternative jobs. So that is how in today's talk we are taking a particular definition of just transition, even though there are many alternative ways we can conceptualize in the literature. So as I said, this is basically a debate of employment versus environment. So alternative job option must be there for the people who are already employed in the sectors. And then in this perspective only, so the proponents of renewable energy, of course, they are saying that while moving to renewable based energy, we should not bother at all about employment, because the solar and wind energy sector itself, they will create such a huge amount of job that will more than offset the job loss that will be happening if we move from fossil fuel based sectors. But then there are three important questions that are related to these renewable based energy sectors. What are the challenges? These are the challenges. Where is this renewable energy job created? See, if we talk about solar energy, if we talk about wind energy, it requires a specific type of geography or topology. It cannot be created and produced anywhere and everywhere. Suppose a person who is employed in Jharkhand, probably he has to move or migrate from Jharkhand to Haryana, or for getting employment in solar sector, or maybe a person from Jharkhand has to migrate to Tamil Nadu if he or she has to get an employment in wind sector, wind energy. So that means there is a migration required, and we economists, we call that migration always comes with a pain, mental pain. So that means the job and the associated salary that you are going to get in these renewable based industries, that should be adjusted with the pain or loss or dissatisfaction that comes in the process of migration. Migration probably is the last resort that an individual would like to take in his or her life. So things are not as easy as the proponents of renewable energy they are conceptualizing and advocating. Secondly, how safe is this renewable job? People may say that renewable energy sectors, their jobs are much more safer than the coal mine. But we should also keep in mind that there is a coal mining sector, even though these jobs are riskier, there are well-established labor unions. They will protect your risk. But this renewable energy is in the transitional phase. So labor union is yet to be established. In this process, if something happens to you, nobody is going to take care of your risk. So that means low role of labor union, safety issues, and migration. These are the three important questions that we must address while moving from fossil fuel based sectors to the renewables. In this backdrop, then what we can do? So that is what in my today's talk, I have taken the efficiency. That means at least in the short run, when the economy is transitioning from fossil fuel to renewable, can we increase the energy use or fuel use efficiency of a particular sector, which I'm taking here as the thermal power plants? So if we increase the efficiency of fuel use, of course, at the end of the day, energy is the prime source of your carbon emission. So the moment you increase your efficiency, carbon emission will go down, and you don't have to sacrifice your employment as well. So that means by maintaining the employment, there is still an option, an opportunity to reduce your carbon emission just by increasing your efficiency. And please note, this efficiency is not coming with extra cost of technological advancements, so on and so forth. This is purely, we economists, we define as managerial inefficiency that creates inefficiency in your energy utilization. So just by improving your managerial efficiency, we can have a higher level of fuel or energy use in this power sector that will not only reduce your carbon emissions, that at the same time that will also help you to maintain your employment level. Now, why this power sector we have taken, and what is the role of coal? Look at this. So coal accounts for almost 55% of India's energy need. And given the fact that the amount of coal stock that we have at present and the amount of revenue that we generate from coal sector, even though we talk about transition, it is a very costly decision for the government to take. I don't know whether you are aware of the recent facts. It was there in yesterday's Hindu itself, that at the one hand, when the government is talking about transition, at the other hand, government is going for auctioning new areas of coal mining. In Tamil Nadu, there is a place called Kaveri Delta. It's one of the most fertile land in Tamil Nadu, biggest producer of rice. And government is trying to auction that particular huge area consisting of around 11 to 12 villages for new coal mining. So that means indirectly it shows that decision to migrate from coal to renewable is not that easy. So that means Indian economy, particularly the power sector, is going to depend on this fossil fuel or coal at least around 30 to 40 years to come. If that is the case, there is no other option but to increase the fossil fuel use efficiency of this sector, because it has two advantages. It can cut down your carbon emission. At the same time, it can maintain the employment. And then here, this is a mathematical model. We economists, we use this mathematical programming to estimate efficiency. I'm not going to talk in detail about this mathematical programming. Rather, I would like to talk about the intuition behind these models. So when we define efficiency, there are broadly two definitions that we are using in this particular study. Firstly, we would like to examine whether the Indian thermal power plants, they have any capability to reduce the energy input. keeping all other inputs and outputs same. So that means we would like to estimate what is the power sector's capacity to produce same level of electricity using lower amount of energy by maintaining all other inputs just by improving their managerial efficiency. That is one way of defining it. And the other definition that we are using, let us assume that government or policymakers, they want to reduce the employment, then along with energy, our objective is also to reduce the labor employment by maintaining all other inputs and outputs same. And please note once again that this improvement in efficiency is coming through purely from the improved managerial efficiency, nothing else. So that means there is no extra cost involved in it. Rather, the benefit is twice. One in the form of lower carbon emission, and at the other hand, the moment you improve your energy efficiency, the fuel cost also will go down, right? So these are the two alternative ways by which we are defining fuel use efficiency or energy efficiency of the power sector. And then since the power sector, it uses a heterogeneous amount of fuel, it has coal, it has oil, it has gas. Then how do we aggregate all this fuel or energy? There we have actually converted all this energy into their calorie value in terms of what is the British thermal unit of energy that each and every source is consisting of. So we are aggregating the fuel in terms of BTU. So that is the way by which we can add different sources of energy. And then we apply this mathematical technique, which is called data envelopment analysis. This is nothing but the application of linear programming that is there in mathematics. The idea is here we are doing the state level analysis. So that means we are taking the input and output of all the states, how much energy, how much labor, how much material, how much capital is employed in energy or electricity production at the state level. And then we are constructing a frontier. This is called the best practice frontier. So a particular state's performance is measured in terms of that best practice frontier. And if a particular state is operating on the frontier, that means that particular state is efficient. And if a particular state is operating below the frontier, so that particular state is inefficient compared to the best practice states which are operating in the frontier. So in a sense, it is a relative efficiency. Okay, efficiency of one state is computed based on the frontier that we are constructing. Now, these are the efficiency scores at the state level. So while states like Delhi, Punjab, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, and Uttarakhand, Telangana, and Kerala, they are operating on the frontier, we see there are states like Chhattisgarh, Odisha, West Bengal, Jharkhand, they are operating below the frontier. And why I have marked some of these states in red, because these states are actually the coal producing states at the same time. So that means some of the coal producing states are not performing on the frontier, indicating their efficiency. Maybe it may hint towards that the resource abundance may lead to inefficiency in its utilization. So what is the meaning of it? The meaning of this, if you look at, we have used 2 years data, 2018-19 and 19-20. So, and this particular definition is based on when the producer's objective is to reduce only energy. So keeping other inputs and outputs same, the states, they have a capacity to reduce energy on an average by 16.76% in 2018-19 and 19.25% in 19-20. Now you can understand, if you can reduce this much of energy, so subsequently a huge amount of emission will also get reduced without much investment in technology and other things. This is just by improving your managerial efficiency. And scholars, they say some rough estimates that 1% improvement in your energy efficiency may lead to maximum 3% reduction in your emission. And mind it, this definition is purely based on energy reduction. That means I am not touching on my employment. So I am not going to reduce the labor employment who are employment already in the mining and power sectors. So keeping the employment as it is, keeping my electricity production as it is, I am able to reduce this much of energy. So this is one definition of our energy efficiency. And the next definition is when you are reducing your energy as well as labor, there it shows the efficiency level is 0.8442. That means capacity to reduce your energy is even more. So which is 15.57% in 2018, and then 1920 it is 18.5. So that means what is happening here, attempting to reduce both energy and labor results in lower potential actually. Why is this happening? Because of course, labor and energy, they are considered to be the substitutable inputs. So if you want to reduce your energy, you must have adequate labor to perform those works which were earlier performed by energy. So that is why this definition gives you a lower potential. Now, why I have applied this particular definition? Because if at all you want to have a transition, you want to reallocate your labor from fossil fuel to renewable, let us have an estimate. And then we can ask these power plants. As you know that nowadays, there is a regulation which is called corporate social responsibility. That means apart from your immediate business purpose, you must invest 2% of your total sales on the projects which are socially interlinked. Probably the states or the power plants, they can think of this is as an extra avenues for their CSR spending. So the moment you reduce your labor, so that laborers who are getting released from your power sector, they can be trained and reskilled to be fit for working in renewables. Because this reskilling labors it's require a huge amount of investment. Some of the advanced countries like EU and others, while they have the just transition fund, we are yet to set up that. So that requires a huge amount of money to be invested for just transition. So in Indian context, this is an avenue. You improve your efficiency, get an estimate of how many laborers can be released from these sectors, and get those laborers trained by reskilling and fit for working in the renewable sectors. So in short then, we are suggesting two measures. What we need to do then, we need to modernize the existing technologies of power generation while slowly having a transition towards cleaner energy. And transition to low carbon economy is inevitable. We cannot negate that, neither we can delay this process. However, during the transitional phase, improving energy efficiency of all the fossil fuel based sectors can really give a breathing place for the economy. So even though my title says moving to renewable or energy efficiency, there is nothing called either or. Rather, what I have looked into the role of improved efficiency, at least in the transitional phase. So with this, I'm just closing my talk, and I would be happy to get your queries, questions, suggestions.